Good morning and welcome to today's edition of the Captain's Log. Today is the 11th of January 2021. It's just about 5:45 in the morning. I just finished my day. I just wanted to quickly give an update on what's been going on with my work, and I had talked last week about adding a new segment, and I'm going to add that today. However, I'm not going to talk about what I was thinking about. I'm going to talk about something else that I happened to see over the weekend. So, update. I was home for a day and a half for New Year's because I picked up an extra shift. New Year's Day night, so the first, about 7 o'clock, I was getting ready to start heading into work. And I was waiting, because I had to wait until I think about midnight before I could start. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got a 34-hour reset. The way that works is you have to be off duty for 34 straight hours, and once that happens, it resets your weekly clock to 70 hours. So I was waiting for that to happen before I started heading in. And I was sitting in a rest area just outside of my hometown in the truck, me and Psycho just sitting here watching TV, and all of a sudden I start getting all kinds of alarm bells and lights going on the dashboard saying, warning, stop engine immediately, warning, so I climbed up into the driver's seat to try and see if I could figure out what's going on. I pulled out the manual for the truck to see what those warning lights meant, and they said low oil pressure, and I looked at my oil pressure gauge and it was reading just fine for where it normally reads on the idle. When I'm just idling, it idles about between 20 and 30 psi, and it was just about 25 psi, so the oil pressure was fine. Another indicator is low coolant low coolant level. Normally I get an annunciator on the dashboard that will say low coolant, but I didn't get that. And the temperature, since it was just sitting idling, was sitting about, 150, 160 degrees. Nothing too extreme. So, I turned off the truck. I got out, and come here, Psycho. Come here. She's looking at me like she wants to jump up in my lap, but she's not quite sure. So anyway, I opened up the hood and took the flashlight and looked at all of my fluid levels. They are all reading within normal limits. I looked underneath and didn't see any thing leaking. I didn't see any other indicators of something bad going on. The only indicator I had was that my batteries were running about 13 volts, and they're supposed to be at, jeez, what are you doing? Chasing a fly or something? Oh, okay. Sorry for the interruption. She can be quite the adventurous little kitty when she wants to be. So anyway, I called into dispatch, said, hey, I've got a major malfunction. I'm not sure what's going to happen. The shop that's near my house, which I normally get all my service done at, of course, they're closed for the holiday and weren't going to be opening again until Monday morning. Of course, it's late Friday evening, and so I'm thinking, well, okay, so I can't drive the truck. And I was only not even 10 miles from the shop. I'd say probably closer to 5. I mean, it's just around the corner. And I was thinking, what am I going to do if I leave the truck sitting here in this rest area? Some rest areas have signs posted to say maximum of 24 hours or whatever to have a vehicle parked in there. And this is Friday night, and so it's going to be Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. So I said, well, crap, I got to take a risk. of leaving it here. So I called the cab. The cab came and took Psycho and myself back to my house. Luckily, I broke down near home, so it wasn't a terrible place to break down. So I got home. The next morning, Saturday morning, I got up and I called. 2 in the middle, blacked out, 147. 2 in the middle, blacked out, 147. Some truckers giving a warning about cops sitting in the median. We talked about that on a previous episode, but I had to turn the thing down because I don't want that to, if you can hear that or not. Anyway, so I called up the tow company and scheduled a tow for Monday morning, and so I had it towed into the shop, and I had already had plans to have some other things replaced because I had an air leak underneath my cab. There's 2 airbags that are probably about the size of maybe 2 fists together that support the weight of the cab, and they're full of air, and that helps give you the cushions to ride. And I had an air leak coming from the right side bag, so I'd already had that plan to be replaced. But of course, all these warning lights and check engine light and all that stuff came on, so I had them check. And I said, well, the batteries are starting to show their age, having a hard time starting, and the volts are a little low. So I said, well, why don't you go ahead while it's there, replace the batteries. And there's 4 batteries on the truck, so that was about $400. And then the 2 airbags were about $500 for the pair. And then the tow bill was about $300. And then the labor to actually do the work was almost $1,000. So this little misadventure cost me 2.5 days of work and $2,000 in maintenance costs. So it kind of hurt a little bit, especially coming off the holiday where we had bad weather, so I shut down, so I wasn't making the normal amount of money. On top of that, the mechanical breakdown. So that's what's been going on. I got the 2 things fixed, and then I was supposed to be off Thursday and Friday, and I come back Saturday night this past weekend. And because of the bad weather that we had a couple of days with freezing fog and icy conditions on the roadways, so we had a lot of backed up freight that was waiting to be delivered. So they called me and asked me if I wanted to come in for pick up some extra work. And I said, well, with this mechanical thing, I definitely need the money, so yeah, I'll definitely come in. Of course, I'm at home 4.5 hours from the terminal, so they gave me a load, drove in, did the load, but I didn't have 34 straight hours off, so my hours of service were already low. Normally you start your week with 70 hours, but I started this week with only 50 hours. So I have worked the past couple of days. I went to Michigan yesterday. Today they gave me a different load going out towards Green Bay and Appleton, Wisconsin, which is like 3 hours from the terminal, and the round trip was like 350 miles. And because I started my day in Michigan, I'd already driven 5 hours today, so I didn't have a lot of hours. So I said, hey, you know what, give me something close if you got it, that way I can get back to the terminal and still save as much of my 70-hour clock as I can. So I pulled into the terminal, dropped my trailer, and the duty status clock is showing me that I have 9 hours remaining on my 70. And I don't go home again until Thursday morning. So today's it's early Monday right now. It's early Monday morning. I don't go home again until Thursday morning. So I got 3 days of work, but only 9 hours today. Now you get whatever amount of hours you worked 7 days ago. So 7 days ago, Monday, last Monday was that the 4th? Like, I think that was the 4th. So whatever hours I worked on that day, I earned back. It's really complicated to understand. So basically what that means is at midnight tonight, I gained back 4 hours because I only worked 4 hours on the 4th last week. So I have 9 hours left. I get my 4 hours at midnight, so that means I have 13 hours available to me. And then the next night I get back 10 hours. So I need to have a short route. I guess technically it'd be tonight because it's Monday morning. So Monday night I need to have a short route so I can save as much of my hours as I can. That way I won't be in danger of violating the DOT regulations. Right now, the way it's standing, if I don't start later or take a short route, I may have to shut down a day early, which is fine if I didn't have plans on Friday. Because if I would have shut down a day early, let's say I shut down Wednesday or Tuesday night, Wednesday, come back Thursday, I'd get a reset. But I have an electrician coming to the house on Friday morning. He was supposed to come last week, but they had some kind of an emergency that they had to deal with, so they had to reschedule my appointment. So they're coming to do an estimate. I'm having them replace my 12 breaker electrical panel with a 24 breaker panel. I'm adding some new outlets in the basement, and I'm adding some new lights in the basement in my multimedia entertainment room. So I have to be off Friday, so I have to be careful on my hours so that works out. It should, but in case it doesn't, then I'll just have to reschedule. But I really don't want to reschedule because I've already rescheduled it once, and I don't want to take time off if I don't need to, because I need to get as much hours as I can to recoup some of the losses that I just suffered with that mechanical breakdown. It's one of those things. When you do this kind of work as an owner operator, you take all that financial risk. So I'm dealing with the risk of not being able to work because my vehicle's not functioning. So it's one of those deals where you gotta deal with all the financial aspects, deal with all of the overhead, all of the maintenance, all of the fuel, insurance, all that. It all comes on me. When you're a company driver, the company pays for all that, but as an owner operator, I have to pay all that. So we'll see how that works out. But as it stands now, everything's looking to be fine. The new segment I talked about last week is adding a top 10 kind of little musings, and I had mentioned that I was going to do the top 10 episodes of ER, which is a television series that ran from the mid 90s to the early to mid 2000s. It ran for 15 seasons, so you got a lot of episodes to look through. But this week I was sitting at home, and of course I couldn't work because of the vehicle, so I was watching Netflix, trying to find something to watch. And I've been kind of not hesitating, but hadn't really been interested in watching it. This series called Cobra Kai. Now, it's basically a spin-off continuing story of the Karate Kid franchise. Now, when I was a little kid in the early 80s, I wanted to be the Karate Kid in the worst way, but my dad wouldn't let me take karate lessons because he thought I would beat up my sister. But unfortunately, I never got to take any karate lessons. And my grandfather used to, when I'd stay with him, we'd watch nothing but karate movies. You know, Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, and all those movies from the 70s and 80s. And I didn't get it the chance that I wanted, so I'd watch these movies, and of course I'd act out what I saw in the movies and whatnot. But anyways, so I'm watching this show, and the trailer looked pretty good. It's the third season just came out. I hadn't watched any of the shows, so of course I started at the beginning, and the production value is pretty good for, you know, a spin-off of a feature film franchise. You know, I really enjoyed parts of it, and some other parts really irritated me. Now, I don't want to spoil anything because some people may not have watched it yet. But I'll just, or not the current season, but I'll just talk about, you know, in general terms. The movie, you know, was made in the 80s, and these two characters, you know, your Johnny Lawrence is it's his story. Of course, you know, the Karate Kid was, you know, Danny LaRusso, Ralph Macchio's character's story, but this story is based on what happened after the tournament with the opposing character, and they brought back all of the original actors from the feature films, except for, of course, like Pat Morita, who of course played Mr. Miyagi. You know, he passed away, so of course he wasn't in the story. I mean, but they show quite a lot of like, I guess you consider them flashbacks from the film, and kind of starts off with Johnny kind of being, you know, a loser. He's a drunk, he's a womanizer, he's basically not doing real well, and he's living in a crap hole place, and just a really bad life for him. And he goes out, he winds up getting in a fight with a bunch of teenagers. Now, if you watched the original Karate Kid movie, the first one, of course, the Danny LaRusso, Danielson character is mercilessly bullied by Johnny and his friends. Now, Johnny, he's sitting out in front of this liquor store, and this kid comes out, and he is beat up by these 3 or 4 bully kids, and Johnny steps in, you know, knocks these kids around, protects the kid, of course, and then he decides to start his own dojo and bring Cobra Kai back. Now, of course, he gets in an accident with. It's kind of weird how this story kind of plays out, but it's kind of predictable in a way. With Danny LaRusso's kids, daughter and her friends smash up Johnny Lawrence's car. It gets taken to Daniel LaRusso's car dealership to get fixed, and then that's where the story kind of starts going. And, you know, Johnny Lawrence gets arrested for beating up these kids, and he is basically going down the wrong path. But he sees something, or something is awakened in him, that he can help this kid, and he decides to train him. And of course, Daniel LaRusso, he's kind of the bad guy. Kind of a strange twist where him and the Johnny Lawrence character have multiple arguments. Of course, they kind of reliving the old days of the original movie, and you know, Daniel accuses him of beating up these kids, and he's like, I was just trying to protect this other kid. And if Daniel LaRusso had just listened to Johnny, that the whole series of events that unfolds in the story could have been completely avoided. And it was just through his stubborn pigheadedness and always seeing Johnny as the bad guy, jumps to the wrong conclusions, and the story kind of takes off. So that's as much I'm going to talk about the story. Basically, a lot of the stuff is completely ridiculous. But overall, very good production value. I like how they're bringing back all of the characters from the original films, the first 3 films. I haven't as yet seen any of the new Karate Kid franchise, the ones with Mr. Miyagi teaching, who was it? Is it Hilary Duff or some young teenage girl that he trains? And that hasn't happened, so I don't know if it's going to happen in the 4th season or what. And of course, the Jackie Chan Karate Kid, that hasn't materialized in the new series. So 3 seasons are out on Netflix. If you got nothing else to do, it's a good time killer. I'm kind of curious to see what happens when the 4th season comes out, but at the same time, I watch some of the stuff that happens. I'm like, come on, this is ridiculous. And of course, it's. I would assume it's rated R because there's a lot of violence and a lot of foul language. So, and it's weird because all the actors, well, not all, but the majority of the actors are teenagers, like 15, 16, 17 years old. And of course, Johnny Lawrence is kind of stuck back in the 80s, and it's kind of funny watching him kind of poke fun at the whole social justice PC culture. And it's kind of funny watching because I grew up in those times, and some of the stuff that I'm hearing coming out of college campuses and other things, I'm like, seriously, someone actually believes this BS? So if you got time, watch the show. Don't have a lot of high expectations for story and arc, but if you're a fan of the original series or the original feature films, then I think you'd enjoy the series. If you never watched the feature films, then I don't know if you'd really get as much out of it until you watch the feature films, and you got to see it through that prism. So on that note, that's going to be it for today's edition of the Captain's Log. I hope this new segment goes well. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the next one. I've got some ideas swirling around in my head, but I haven't made any decisions yet. So I'll probably put another one of these episodes out in a week and a half or 2 weeks, depending on my schedule and how things are going. But on that note, thanks for watching the Captain's Log. We'll see you on the next one.